What's going on, boys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to go over the 4-2-2 tactic. This is my attacking tactics that are going to be used. It's going to replace my 4-4-2. I'm going to explain to you the reasons why. As usual, don't forget this video is sponsored by my FIFA School Series. You want to get better at FIFA, you can come join my FIFA School Series. I've got hundreds of videos that are not on YouTube in a systematic format which is used. And don't forget, right now we have a deal as well. If you don't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money. So no loss for you. More videos on attack patterns, positioning. Learn the meta before it becomes a meta. Link is down below in the description in regards to that for more information. So the reason I moved from the 4-4-2 flat to the 4-2-2, there's two reasons. One is that there's CDMs there. And you might be saying, okay, then why don't you just go to, for example, the 4-4-2 second variation? Well, the way that I use it is the 4-4-2 flat is a good balance, especially for pressing. It lacks the CDMs, but the 4-4-2 second variation is a bit more defensive. And since FIFA 18 was the last time it was really the top of the top, it's still a good formation. But I want to try the 4-2-2 with the cams because the formation is used heavily in FIFA 19. Now I know I have one with left back and right back during attack, but this is just systematically in a 4-4-2 system. And I do like the use of cams in this, and I'll explain to you what I mean. So let's go with the tactics. So we've kept press after possession loss on our. Just for the record, this is an attacking 4-4-2, 4-2-2 or 4-4-2. They're very similar formations, so you can use a 4-4-2 if you want to. But this is attacking variation. So this is if I'm starting a game and I want to be very aggressive, or if I'm losing 1-0 and I want to come back in the game. Feel free to activate constant pressure if you want to. But what I do is I use press after possession loss. And then in game, what I essentially do is I use a D-pad tactic and I activate team press. So that way it basically turns into team press when you want it to. And it's press after possession loss the rest of the time. The width we've gone with 65 is very similar to the 4-4-2. It's quite a wide formation anyway. So we just want to make it a bit more wider because of course when your opponent's got the ball, you want to be as wide as possible to cover as much of the pitch as possible. You can even go towards 70 as well. It's up to you. They're both fine. But just don't go too much to the extreme because people say it's good, but the truth is any good player will be able to start making moves in between the gaps. So you want to be wide enough to cover a lot of the pitch where you can press together as a unit, but not so wide where you're just getting spread apart. So I understand that's important. Don't forget with team press, your players, they spring out outwards anyway. So they just start in a compact system and then they spring out. So don't worry about that. The depth, you did move this all the way up to 70 to 75. Now, exact same thing. You want to be as high up as the pitch as possible, and playing a very, very high depth is very, very good. What you can do is, let's say for example, if you're not an aggressive player, you're not used to this, what you can do is use 65 here or 60, and then you can put this to 65. So what you can do is, if you're not so much of an aggressive player, you can bring it back to 60, 65. If you're a bit more aggressive, you can make it 70, 75. So you can have two options there. For the build-up play, we've gone with balance. Slow build-up play is kind of a no-go, especially when you're getting pressed. I did have a long ball before, but with the 4-2-2, because you got those two CDMs there perfectly, I don't feel like I have to worry too much anymore, and I can feel like I can go forward when I want to. So you can use fast build-up play if you want to, but I just prefer balance because the way that I play is a very progressive, systematic setup, but just don't use possession. Any form of possession in this tactic will not be useful because this is more tactic to press. And sometimes when you win the ball back, you don't want your players coming close. You want players making runs in behind. So what I would say is for the first 2/3, this is what I will do. So again, you can change this, but I'm explaining to you what I'm doing here. I'll leave it on balanced or on long ball. It's up to you. I would suggest long ball for most players. Don't use L1 triggers. If you do, leave it on balanced, okay? Then for the chance creation, you leave it on forward runs because you have the two CDMs anyway, so you don't have to worry about players going too forward. You've got that stability and you've got that players. Now, we don't have no left back and right back during the attack. We've got the two CDMs, the back four, and we have the front four. So we're basically playing in a 4-4-2 when we're attacking. There's nothing funky going on about this formation. So we just got forward runs, long ball. Keep it simple. When we get the ball back, we're going to press high up the pitch. We're going to be high up the pitch to press. And that way when we do get the ball, if we do get in the middle areas, we've got the long ball to push the players going forward, especially on the wingers, the left mid, right mid. And then when we're outside the box or in the final third, we have forward runs to create the chances. So we want to be higher up the pitch, win the ball higher up the pitch, and be very, very quick on the attack. Does that make sense? That's why I say fast build-up play. You can use it if you want to because you're going to be high up the pitch anyway. But just be careful. Don't just start spamming driven through balls for obvious reasons. The width, we put this to 65, similar like we did in the 4-4-2. Generally speaking, I think all formations nowadays, you want the wider variation simply because Number one, everyone's playing very, very narrow, and as I mentioned before, previously in my 4-4-2 videos, if you play a narrow formation, these guys are not cams. They're basically wingers, guys. Don't forget, Lamb and Rams are basically wingers in FIFA. In the 4-5-1, they're wingers. In the 4-2-3-1, they're basically wingers, and same in the 4-2-2-2. Don't forget that. So when you're playing very, very wide, there's more gaps in between that you can basically exploit with your strikers, and then you spread your opponent's back four up. If you have just everyone narrow like this bunched together, then your opponent can play narrow. So at least if you play wide, you have options either down the wing, or don't forget, if you play wide, your opponent's left back and right back, they sometimes spread out and they fan out to mark your left back and right back, and thus that creates more space in the middle. So you think of them as pinning your opponent's left back and right back, or keeping them very wide, almost as decoys. Width's on 65 as I mentioned, and don't forget it's a 4-2-2, so it's still like a 4-4-2 anyway. Players in the box, you can put this on whatever you want. I leave this on 4, but you know, feel free to put this on 6 or 7. The reason why I leave it on low, because everyone always asks me this. This is not players in the box when you have the ball on the outside your box. People always get that confused. This is from crossing situations. Now me, I don't cross the ball in at all. I don't score headers. For me, I don't consider it a good goal. I think it's a bit random. You smack the ball in, you header it in, there's no skill. That's just me. That's just the way that I play. So I prefer to recycle the ball outside the box and then try to make a play inside the box. Kind of like the Wenger-esque walk the ball into the back of the net kind of style. So that's why I have my players in the box lower. Feel free in all my formations, unless I say otherwise, to increase the players in the box if you cross the ball. Now, I still use driven passes or driven crosses if you will, from the edge of the box or on the wide areas inside the box. I still use that, but 4 just means that I'm not in a position where everyone's going inside the box, because then I got no one else to pass to, and sometimes your Lamb and your Ram, they go in at the wrong time, etc, etc. Corners and free kicks, I always leave this on 1, because A, I pass my free kicks, so I shoot, and B, corners. This right here is the biggest thing you have to be careful with FIFA. This thing single-handedly costs a lot of goals, corners. It's counter-attack city. There used to be a glitch where you could have a lot of corners and everyone should stay forward, but that's gone now. So I leave it on 1. Your centre-backs still run forward aimlessly anyway, so I'd rather be secure and safe and then sorry. Then instructions. So I have 2 CDMs here. So I have Llorente and Onyeka. I put the most attacking player on the right-hand side. And then what I do is you can put Llorente on balance. I'll go through the instructions in a second. And I have 2 marksman strikers. I put Son and I put Tecatito here. And then the Lamb and the Ram. Don't forget, these guys are wingers, so you want fast players. So no Bruno Fernandes, no KDB, no Bernardo Silva, none of those guys that are slow. You want fast wing players. Think of these guys as wingers, okay? Now, the instructions. Stay central for both of the strikers. And if you want to, you can put 1 on stay forward and 1 on come back in offense, okay? So that way you have like the 4-4-1-1 system, okay? And that way when you're pressing, don't forget, you don't want these guys to be on stay forward, because when you're pressing, you don't want your opponents to be passing the ball in this area, because you commit one of your midfield 4, you're going to create a gap. So the idea is at least you want that guy there, so you can still press with your striker. At least you can have one guy and stay forward. So the guy with the less stamina, you put him on stay forward. If you want to, you can put get in behind as well. It's completely up to you. Now, for the Lamb and the Ram, I put them both on comeback and offense, just because simply, if you're losing 1-0, the last thing you want to do is you want to be, for example, losing 2-0, okay? And also, a lot of top tier players, if you've got 4 players on stay forward, they will hold the ball in between your 2 centre mids and your in between your back 4 and your 2 centre mids, and they will try to exploit this gap, these guys coming forward. So if you have all these guys on stay forward, your opponent's going to pass the ball around here with like 4 players, his 4 players and 2 centre mids. It's going to be here a 6v6. That is the last thing that you want with all 4 of your players on stay forward. If they've got fullbacks on joining the attack, then you're going to have a numerical disadvantage. So it's better to have these guys that come back in defense. They still go forward. They don't stay back while attacking. They just come back when they're defending, and then they just go forward after. If you want to, you can put them on balance to make them more attacking. But combat defense is what I always use. Get into the box for the cross is what I use. So basically, if you really want to, let's say, for example, you really want the players, like let's say you get the ball on the wide area and you want your Lamb to run inside the box, then when you cross the ball in, then you can force them with the get into the box instruction. Don't forget, this overrides this command. So if you got this on 1 and you put these guys to get inside the box, they're going to get inside the box for a cross. Just remember that. People don't know that. So I leave it on 4. And my balance is I leave it on 4 and I leave it on balanced. I just think they're always there at the right place at the right time. I don't have to worry about them too much. Do not put them on free roam because they end up going in. They don't end up going centrally. They don't end up going in these mad positions. They just end up going in these random positions. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. They just kind of linger sometimes. It doesn't really do anything, in my opinion. Drift wide just makes them stay wide. Think of it like hug the sidelines. That's it. So when you have the ball, they're just very, very wide. You might as well just use the 4-4-2 if you're going to be using drift wide, but just use hug the sidelines. It replicates the same thing anyway. Both these guys unbalanced, okay? Both CDMs cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover center. Now, if you struggle to attack with this formation, you can put one of the center mids on either get forward if they've got bad work rates, or you can put them on balanced. It's up to you, okay? I personally both mine on stay back while attacking. Now why? I don't want the game to push a guy forward for me without me saying so. And in fact, I was coaching someone this weekend league and I was watching his gameplay, and the biggest mistake he made is that he kept pushing one of the center mids going forward and he had no one to recycle the ball with outside the box. And that meant that he was trying to pass the ball to his 2 strikers with only one center mid, and the opponent was man marking the center mid every single time. You need sometimes another player where you could pass the ball around your opponent's defenders. So having a player always join the attack or getting forward is not always a feasible option. Just because the pros do it doesn't mean you should do it. So what I would recommend is leave it on balance. If you know that you're good enough and you know you don't have to rely on the game to do it for you, put it on stay back while attacking and literally just trigger this player going forward, and then you can use him when you want to. That way you have full control over that player, okay? Left back, right back, the absolute usual. Stay back, conservative and overlap for both of them. Don't forget, they're never going to be going for anyway. If you want to, you can activate attacking fullbacks and they'll be making those runs going forward, but you don't want them to run the inside. Why would anyone want them to be inverted? It makes no sense to me. Why would you want your more attacking player to be on the outside? So if they go inverted, it forces your wide players out wide. You want them to be on the outside to supplement your attack. And that way, your main attack is the one that can actually shoot and got good shooting stats are towards the middle area. So if you want to create that double up situation, you want them on the inside, your attackers. Therefore, you want your fullbacks to be on the outside. You can always activate them. You can always trigger them forward. As I said, you can always trigger them forward manually with the L1 button. It's better to learn these things manually. That way you have full control. But also, let's say, for example, you want to activate the attacking fullbacks inside the game. You can always activate that tactic and it overrides this command. So if you activate, I think it's up and then I think it's left. Activate attacking fullbacks. It will override step back while attacking, and they will go forward regardless. Left back, right back is on stay back. Now, what I would just say is 2 clinical strikers. I do 2 5-star weak foot, so Neymar's, the Mbappe's, the Messi's you can probably get away with over here. Lamina Ram, fast players. If you have a top tier team, you know, the Mbappe's, you know, the Garinchas, the George Best, the Mane's, the Nedveds, all those players. 1 CDM, Onyeka's top tier, but you got someone like Kante, someone like Vieira, and then someone like Llorente, Hullet, etc, etc. I still play fullback, centre back, yes, and that is my back line. And that has now replaced my 4-4-2 tactic. So if you see me this is my new team, by the way. If you do see me this weekend league, I am using this to replace the 4-2-2. So in the tactics video tomorrow, you will be seeing that. But anyway, that is the 4-2-2 tactics. Again, this is an attacking 4-2-2. This is if you are losing inside the game and you're 1-0 down, you could change this formation to be a bit aggro. I just prefer that both CDMs because it provides a bit more stability when A, I'm getting countered, and B, I just prefer CDMs. The cut passing lane instruction is just too important to ignore. If center mids had it, I would use the 4-4-2 flat, but they don't. And then the formation is a bit more narrow as well, so if you want to make it wider, you can use hug the sidelines when you want to as well. And I said, don't forget this video is of course sponsored by FIFA School Series. You want to get better, and of course I've got videos on how to use defensive CDMs and how to be aggressive with them, so you can learn that video. Link is down below in the description. Patreon.com/NealGuides. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy, of course. I'll catch you next time. Peace out.